The book of Job comes next chronologically. Job was probably older than, or at least contemporary with Abraham. There are some vital chapters I want to point out, but for now I won't be doing every chapter of this book. If you're reading the Bible for the first time, watch this video and then skip Job until after you get through the Bible basics.
Chapter 1. There was a man in the land of Uz, whose name was Job, and that man was perfect and upright, and one that feared God, and eschewed evil.
Uz was the son of Aram, who was the son of Shem. For Job to be in Uz's land would mean he lived sometime after Uz was an adult. The name of the land apparently didn't stick very long. The land of Uz became known by another name, probably even before Abraham's time. Job could have lived 200 years before Abraham. Job was on God's good side. He hated sin and obeyed God the best he could. Everything he knew about God was from oral tradition passed down from Noah. Job is probably the first of God's prophets to start writing scripture down.
And there were born unto him 7 sons and 3 daughters. His substance also was 7,000 sheep, and 3,000 camels, and 500 yoke of oxen, and 500 she-asses, and a very great household, so that this man was the greatest of all the men of the East.
Job is like Donald Trump with so much more wealth than the next guy. It seems maybe God was blessing him greatly according to his faithful obedience.
And his sons went and feasted in their houses, every one his day, and sent and called for their 3 sisters to eat and to drink with them. And it was so, when the days of their feasting were gone about, that Job sent and sanctified them, and rose up early in the morning, and offered burnt offerings according to the number of them all. But Job said, It may be that my sons have sinned, and cursed God in their hearts. Thus did Job continually.
Notice that Job was sacrificing animals, and also notice he was sacrificing for his sons, too. He was the high priest, so to speak.
Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them.
Now the scene changes to the spiritual realm. God's having some kind of worship service or pep rally, and the devil shows up. The phrase sons of God here refers to angels. This same phrase was used back in Genesis 6, where we're told about the Nephilim.
And the Lord said unto Satan, Whence comest thou? Then Satan answered the Lord and said, From going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down in it. And the Lord said unto Satan, Hast thou considered my servant Job, that there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and an upright man, one that feareth God, and escheweth evil? Then Satan answered the Lord, and said, Doth Job fear God for naught? Hast not thou made an hedge about him, and about his house, and about all that he hath on every side? Thou hast blessed the work of his hands, and his substance is increased in the land. But put forth thine hand now, and touch all that he hath, and he will curse thee to thy face.
God says, Look at Job. He listens to me. What do you think about him? Satan says, You treat him like a spoiled brat. Take all his stuff away, and he'll sin.
And the Lord said unto Satan, Behold, all that he hath is in thy power. Only upon himself put not forth thine hand. So Satan went forth from the presence of the Lord.
Satan can only do what God allows Satan to do. That's important to remember. I trust God so much that I don't fear what Satan can do to me, because whatever it is, God wanted it to happen. Going through trials is easier, knowing God is always controlling the ship.
And there was a day when his sons and his daughters were eating and drinking wine in their eldest brother's house. And there came a messenger unto Job, and said, The oxen were ploughing, and the asses feeding beside them. And the Sabaeans fell upon them, and took them away. Yea, they have slain the servants with the edge of the sword. And I only am escaped alone to tell thee.
An enemy tribe of Sabaeans killed Job's servants and stole his animals. Scripture doesn't tell us who the Sabaeans were, but they are mentioned prophetically by Isaiah, Ezekiel, and Joel.
While he was yet speaking, there came also another, and said, The fire of God is fallen from heaven, and hath burned up the sheep and the servants, and consumed them, and I only am escaped alone to tell thee.
This happens at the same time. More servants and animals die from some sort of astronomical event. What are the odds?
While he was yet speaking, there came also another, and said, The Chaldeans made out 3 bands, and fell upon the camels, and have carried them away, yea, and slain the servants with the edge of the sword. And I only have escaped alone to tell thee.
That's right. This happens at the same time too. This third event kills more servants and takes away more animals. The Chaldeans get mentioned a lot more often in Scripture than the Sabaeans. They are directly linked to Babylon. Abram comes from Ur of the Chaldees.
While he was yet speaking, there came also another, and said, Thy sons and thy daughters were eating and drinking wine in their eldest brother's house. And behold, there came a great wind from the wilderness, and smote the 4 corners of the house, and it fell upon the young men, and they are dead. And I only am escaped alone to tell thee.
Wow, now all 10 of Job's kids are killed. When some kind of hurricane destroys the house all 10 of them happen to be in. Job has now pretty much lost seemingly everything he owns except his own home and wife.
Then Job arose, and rent his mantle, and shaved his head, and fell down upon the ground, and worshipped, and said, Naked came I out of my mother's womb, and naked shall I return thither. The Lord gave, and the Lord hath taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. In all this Job sinned not, nor charged God foolishly.
Can you believe that? Job accepted God's providence. This is directly linked to Romans 8:28, which says, All things work together for good to them that love God. When something bad happens, God has a good reason for it. Accept it with joy, knowing a good purpose is behind it. Job reacted the way God would have wanted him to. He didn't take Satan's bait. Score, God 1, Satan 0.
Again there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord. And Satan came also among them to present himself before the Lord. And the Lord said unto Satan, From whence comest thou? And Satan answered the Lord, and said, From going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down in it. And the Lord said unto Satan, Hast thou considered my servant Job, that there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and an upright man, one that feareth God and escheweth evil? And still he holdeth fast his integrity, although thou movest me against him to destroy him without cause.
God points out here at the end that Job stayed righteous through his trial, and that he was innocent to begin with.
And Satan answered the Lord and said, Skin for skin, yea, all that a man hath will he give for his life. But put forth thy hand now, and touch his bone and his flesh, and he will curse thee to thy face.
Satan now bets that afflicting Job's health and threatening his life will drive him to sin.
And the Lord said unto Satan, Behold, he is in thine hand, but save his life. So went Satan forth from the presence of the Lord, and smote Job with sore boils, from the sole of his foot unto his crown.
Job is now given some kind of horrible skin disease.
And he took him a potsherd to scrape himself withal, and he sat down among the ashes. Then said his wife unto him, Dost thou still retain thine integrity? Curse God, and die.
His wife had had enough. She lost everything too. Her kids and servants and animals are all gone. It bothered her somehow that Job wouldn't sin.
But he said unto her, Thou speakest as one of the foolish women speaketh. What? Shall we receive good at the hand of God? And shall we not receive evil? In all this did not Job sin with his lips.
Concerning the devil's game, it's now God 2, Satan 0. Job handled the loss of wealth and his family and physical ailment remarkably well.
Now when Job's 3 friends heard of all this evil that was come upon him, they came every one from his own place, Eliphaz the Temanite, and Bildad the Shuhite, and Zophar the Naamathite. For they had made an appointment together to come to mourn with him, and to comfort him. And when they lifted up their eyes afar off, and knew him not, they lifted up their voice and wept. And they rent every one his mantle, and sprinkled dust upon their heads toward heaven. So they sat down with him upon the ground 7 days and 7 nights, and none spake a word unto him, for they saw that his grief was very great.
The next 29 chapters are these 3 guys telling Job what they think he did wrong to explain why all this bad stuff happened. Meanwhile, Job, who was truly innocent, keeps maintaining his innocence and starts demanding some kind of trial with God because he doesn't feel that he's been treated fairly. One nugget I will point out is when Job says, I know that my Redeemer liveth, and that he shall stand at the latter day upon the earth. Then a young man gives his opinions for 6 chapters, and then a tornado starts talking to Job. That's right, I said a tornado starts talking. Tune in next time.